Hey there everyone, Paddle here, and welcome back. It's time for some more Star Citizen, and today we're going to be talking about hacking, cheating, exploiting, duping, what it is we know from CIG, and how it could affect the game, things we should be aware of going forward. Before we do that, the footage you're seeing in the background is Ghost Recon Wildlands Beta. It's okay. It's about the best I can say. It's not bad. There's nothing severely wrong with the game. It's just not very interesting. As a third-person sandbox type game, it's missing anything to really set it apart. You look at games like, say, Saints Row, or probably closer to this would be Just Cause, where you get this awesome grappling hook and this parachute and you're slingshotting yourself all around the level. You've got destruction physics, so you're knocking buildings down. You don't have any of that in Ghost Recon Wildlands. You do have some teammates, and it is designed to be co-op, so that's okay, but there's nothing really super interesting about it. On the other hand, it's also a Ghost Recon game, but as terms of a Ghost Recon game, the shooting just isn't very good. The weapons just kind of feel like The Division. To be quite honest, the shooting mechanics of this feel almost exactly like The Division. Obviously, you don't have some of the different powers from The Division, but you do have little gadgets. You have the drone and everything, but the shooting just isn't really good. So you have a rather bland sandbox with rather bland shooting mechanics, and while there's nothing wrong with any of them, it just makes for kind of a boring shooter. At least that's what my opinion is after about 4 hours. We'll see. I'm going to play a little bit more tomorrow, but yeah, so far I'm not too impressed by Wildlands. Back to today's subject. So like I said, I want to talk about cheating, exploiting, all of that thing, and we should define what these are. So for me, cheaters or hackers, whatever you want to call them, but let's be honest, most of the time, very rarely is the cheater actually the hacker. The hacker is some guy, some really smart coder somewhere who makes these programs and then sells them to the cheaters who actually use the program. To me, these are things that directly modified certain amount of code or add things in to allow for advantages. These are going to include things like wall hacks, aimbots, being able to modify, say, the amount of damage coming out of your weapon, be it your ship or your Star Marine, being able to adjust your ship's durability. Those type of things are hacks. Exploiters are people that find loopholes, breaks in the code where they can go ahead and they can maybe take a quest and go to turn it in, and they do it in such a way that it allows them to continue to turn it in time after time after time after time, getting a huge amount of rep or credits that should take days, months, weeks, whatever. These tend to be actual flaws with the game, and just through a certain amount of actions, you can exploit that flaw to really gain a bonus. Now, while they're, in my opinion, not as bad as hackers, they're still intentionally breaking something that they shouldn't be doing, and they're not much better than hackers. I still very much dislike exploiters. And right along those lines of exploiters is also dupers. So these are people that find a certain set of, you can do X, Y, Z, and by doing this, if you move an item from, say, your ship into a hangar during a lag spike, then when you move the item back, you get 2 of those items. So for the same cost of that one item, you now have 2. If you do the same thing again, well, now you have 4, then you have 8, then you have 16 of them. And they can duplicate items over and over again and make massive amounts of money, destroy the markets, whatever by creating these items. They're just like exploiters. In fact, they're basically the exact same thing, just one is more around exploiting an interaction while the other one is exploiting an item. So those are what we're talking about here today, and there's different conversations going on. Let's start with what we do know. Okay. What we do know is surprisingly little. Chris Roberts, CIG have come out and they've made several very firm stances on hacking, exploiting, and all those things. They've basically said that it is one of their top priorities in development. That is something they're very much aware of, and they have a plan to handle it. Outside of that, they have not told us much. They have said that when they do find hackers, do find cheaters, those people are going to suffer an immediate permanent ban. They've actually also given us the tools as the players that we can submit video footage. So if you're playing Star Marine and you get video footage of someone hacking, of someone cheating, you can submit that to them and they will use that to permanently ban these players. This is a very good line in the sand that they have drawn. They've said, boom, if you cheat, you're losing your account. There's no 3-day ban. There's no temporary. There's no what's the word I'm looking for? There's no arbitration period. You're gone. And this is going to do a lot to at least dissuade anyone with a more expensive account from really considering to cheat. Now, I don't think most people would even do that, but let's be realistic. If, say, you got $600 invested in the game, are you going to risk that $600 account, whatever unique ships or whatever you have, on cheating? Probably not. So for the vast majority of the current people playing the game, the current backers of the game, it's very rare that you're going to probably find one of them cheating. There are going to be people that picked up, say, accounts for $35 during the holiday sale when you could get just Star Citizen for the $35 with the Aurora or the Mustang. There will be people there that will try cheating. There will be people at launch that will try cheating. And that's where things are going to get a little bit more complicated. But it is good to know that, boom, if you do cheat, you are banned. That's a great line in the sand. Obviously, it's a lot of talk right now till we actually see them ban people, till we see waves of cheaters getting removed from the game. You don't really know, but it seems pretty darn reliable they're going to do it. As I said, though, we don't know much more beyond that. We know we can report it, we know they're going to get banned, and we know that they said it's a big idea. We do know that there has been talk that they are working on an anti-cheat, whether it is their own whether it's their own proprietary one or a third-party one, we have no idea beyond that. And this is both a good and bad thing. So whenever you create an anti-cheat, as soon as it's out there, hackers start trying to exploit it. And if they're using a third-party one, which they most likely are. Now, when I say third-party, I don't mean they're going to be using Battle.net or the Valve anti-cheat or even something like Punkbuster. No, they're probably partnering with a third-party company to modify one specifically for Star Citizen. But just if they would just come out and say this, even just saying the name of the anti-cheat they plan on using, or even saying the name of the company they are working with, gives hackers a starting point to begin to prepare to exploit and break the anti-cheat. It just gives them that baseline. If we know X company from wherever is who they're working with, well, it's no guarantee. You can probably look at that company's past products and draw from there a baseline of what it is they're going to be doing, implementing in order to put an anti-cheat in. So by being very quiet about this, it doesn't give hackers the beginning of breaking this cheat system. The fact that it's not in the alpha yet doesn't give hackers that initial testing to start breaking it. On the other hand, without having the anti-cheat known, without having the anti-cheat running in the alpha, it also means the anti-cheat is not being tested. And we've seen many games, many times, where they're in betas and the beta seems to be running really good, the network's looking good and everything, and as soon as the game launched, the anti-cheat gets added in, and there's something with the anti-cheat that just screws things up. Be it causes disconnects, or the anti-cheat is reading hard drive space, which is causing these like stutters in gameplay. That's one of the big ones. A lot of games, I won't say a lot of games, but numerous multiplayer games where you start running into weird stuttering situations, many times is because the anti-cheat is checking the code going out to the client, or going from the client out to the server to make sure it's correct, and that's what causes many of these stutters. And since we don't have the anti-cheat in the game, we can't test this. So when the anti-cheat does get added in, there could be a real big learning curve where the game's running fairly well, and all of a sudden, here's the anti-cheat in, and everything is completely broken. So it's a mixed bag. On one hand, if the anti-cheat was in, hackers would have an advantage to start right now in alpha breaking the anti-cheat. On the other hand, without the anti-cheat in, we don't know how well it's going to work. We don't know if it's going to break other parts of the game. The good news is the anti-cheat probably isn't going to need to check all that much. Most of what is going to be going on in Star Citizen is going to be handled server side. So if you're not familiar with this, the way it varies by a lot of games, but the way that is becoming more common, especially with things like MMOs, things of the scale of Star Citizen, is everything gets checked against server-side calculations. So your computer, when you fire a laser or whatever at a ship, your computer is going to do a rough calculation of the damage being done to that ship. And that way it can update instantly. You don't have to wait for the information to go out to the server and come back. But what you're seeing is just an estimation on what your computer currently knows. That's why sometimes you'll see the health change on shields or whatever, not just because of recharge. But what's happening realistically within the game is you're sending the data, okay, I'm firing at this angle. The server picks up the information, says, okay, that laser does this amount of damage at this range. The target you're hitting has this amount of shield, the final result is this amount of damage, and it sends that information back to you. It also sends that information over to the target, the other person's client. Everything gets run through the server. This is good. It's a great safe point, as unless hackers literally break into the server and manage to run their malicious software on the server, it means they can't really do anything. It means their hacks are extremely limited for things that have to do with changing of damage numbers, shield numbers, things along those lines. Those things are very, very tough to do when that is handled server side. There is a downside to this though. By handling everything server side, that is a huge amount of strain on the server. This could really limit the amount of players they can get onto one master server. One of the big things many of us want to see is mega servers. We want to see servers where it's not 20, 30, 40 people. We want to see hundreds or thousands of people on these servers. Well, if you figure 1,000 people on the server, how many people are in combat at any one time? 150 or so? All the laser fire, all of the shields, all of that being calculated on the server, plus keeping track of all the cargo in the ships, the hull of the ships, the players in the ships. That's a lot of traffic for that server to handle. And the truth of the matter may be, the technology for the servers just might not be there yet to handle everything server side plus a large population. And even if the technology for the server's there, the network might not be able to handle it. That's a lot of data being transferred back and forth from all these computers handling all the different information that needs to go on for these server-side calculations. So we want as much of this as we can check server-side, but just realistically, they might need to offload some of that back to the client in order to get the system to work. They might have to make a decision, all right, we can only handle this amount of traffic for this amount of players. So as we increase players, we might have to reduce how many calculation checks on the back end we do in order to increase that player count. It's going to be something they might have to decide on. Now, there are other type of hacks that work differently. So this is going to be things like your aimbots, almost entirely your aimbots. The aimbots, as long as they know in some way where it is your target is on the client side, they can use that to automatically adjust the aim and enable you to fire with a much higher precision. And in a system like Star Citizen, where you're going to have things like radar, where you're going to have things like heads up, well, the radar mostly, but tracking and all of that, the client knows where the target is. So aimbots are going to be a problem we're going to have to deal with. In fact, there are already aimbots for Star Marine. In doing the research for this video, I came across a site where I could have subscribed right now for a Star Marine aimbot. I absolutely did not do it. I didn't want it, but it was right there. It was right in front when I was trying to find this. Excuse me. It was right there, front and center, advertised as a Star Marine aimbot, and they also, in the same advertisement, talked about how they're going to be adding in further hacks for the spaceship combat as that develops out. And these are going to be things that you can't handle, no matter what. The client side needs to know where the targets are, because they need to be able to show you those targets as you want around a corner or whatever in order to shoot at them. So those are things that are going to need to be handled by the anti-cheat software and everything. It's a complicated mess. It really is. Now, the good news is it's a complicated mess that hundreds, if not thousands, of other games have had to deal with. So there's a lot of experience out there to varying degrees of success. You have some that are really, really bad and some that are really, really good at doing it. And then you have everything in between. Hopefully they can do it correctly, because it could really ruin the game. If you have a cheater that manages to somehow find a way to make his ship have unlimited shields, or his weapons just do insane amount of damage that they should never be able to do at infinite range and stuff, that just breaks the game mechanics. But this is all very clear cut. There's then the exploiters that I talked about before, and this is something that we as a community are going to have to probably help them a little bit in. There's no amount of troubleshooting, bug testing that can eliminate all possible exploits. when these exploits come up, and this is going back to talking about things like item duping, reputation duping, currency duping, things along those lines, several things need to happen. One, as soon as it's found, we need to report it, we need to show it, we need to get it out there for them to see. We also then need to stop doing it. You're going to see people, and they're going to try and justify it left and right. They're going to say, well, I'm only exploiting it so that they know to fix it. I'm only exploiting it. Well, you did it 100,000 times. No, you're not doing it so they know to fix it. You're doing it for your own advantage. You're being an asshole. Don't buy that crap. As soon as it's known, we let them know, we let CIG know, we show it to them, and then you stop doing it. And I really hope that while they took such a firm stand on hacking, I hope they take such a firm stance also on item duping and exploiting. Because in a game where they're looking to have a very robust economy, they're looking to have a big thing of supply and demand, nothing will ruin that economy faster than someone that is able, without any effort, to create an infinite number of a certain item and completely break the supply and demand, or completely break the economy because they gave themselves unlimited currency or near unlimited currency through an exploit, and now they can buy whatever they want. This is going to be exceptionally true with Star Citizen, even beyond other games, because many of the best items, the ships, the higher end modules, your weapons, and all of that, are going to be big, significant investments. And it would be awful if, after a week, a handful, say 10% of the population, through exploits, were able to create enough currency to literally buy anything and everything they could ever want to begin with. It would be an utter game killer, in my opinion. So this is like a tougher one, as when you look at someone that's exploiting, they haven't used a cheat or anything, but they're definitely using illegitimate, questionable methods to get that. And while maybe that doesn't deserve a complete ban, it definitely deserves a massive character wipe, in my opinion. Although I would not be opposed to a complete ban. You do need to do individual investigations on a lot of these, though, because some people will accidentally create the dupe once. In many cases, the dupes are found accidentally. So when that happens, you look into it and say, oh, that person, it happened twice. They did it once by accident, then once to confirm what they did, and they didn't do it anymore. Okay, that person doesn't deserve to be banned. Maybe we'll just roll them back 48 hours, remove those items from their inventory or whatever. But then you're going to have people that as soon as it's known, they're going to go nuts with it. Those people, if you want to ban them, I'm all for that, CIG. Go ahead and get rid of them. I think that basically does it. This is a much easier one. Like I said, there's not a whole lot known because they're being very hush-hush about what it is, their plans for the anti-cheat, for protection of all of this. The other side of it, the duping and the exploiting, that's going to be, I think this, I do believe Star Citizen is going to have quite a few exploits in it. If you look at the complexity of the game they're making, the more complex it is, the more chances of failure, the more chances of exploits and duping, things like that being a possibility. I think that's going to be a large issue. And we're going to need to be very diligent as a community in order reporting these, getting these things fixed to keep them from breaking the core backbone systems of this game, the economy, and all of that. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Until next time, this has been Pallor. Thanks for watching.